How do you put Hesed, or biblical loving kindness, in action in your life? Welcome to the Noble Bereans video channel. I'm your host, Steve Sanders. If you're listening to this on the podcast, swing over to either Rumble or YouTube where you can watch the video for this episode. Recently, I've been sharing a lot of thoughts on the Hebrew word Hesed, which I'll mostly refer to as loving kindness today. On the Noble Bereans blog, I shared with you the complexities of translating the word Hesed. Then on the Noble Bereans podcast, I shared 5 key thoughts to help you understand what it means. Today, though, we're going to get into what matters most. What does God's loving kindness look like in action? Let's begin with a recap of what Hesed is. First, it involves human interaction. It's more than this, though. It's a relational concept. That means true Hesed involves building relationships. It's also typically reciprocal. In other words, recipients of loving kindness will look for opportunities to repay this, though sometimes this means paying it forward to others in need. It also involves action. It's not enough to tell someone you're going to pray for them if you have the means to meet their need. And finally, loving kindness toward the poor and the needy is an expectation by God. When you really start to understand the concept of Hesed, you begin to see this loving kindness throughout the Bible. Of course, we see the loving kindness of God, but we also see loving kindness shown from people to other people in stories from the Old Testament to the New Testament. In the recent podcast, I said we could almost say Hesed is doing good things for others. And that's true. But if we only use that definition, we might do good things that aren't loving kindness, as defined by the word Hesed. For example, government security programs might help people, but they are missing almost every other component of loving kindness. Frankly, even offerings or charitable giving, being anonymous donations to the recipient, are also missing many of these components. We must remember that true biblical loving kindness is a relational concept. I think we see many examples in the Bible of the importance of relationships. It's also about meeting the needs of someone else when you have the means to do so. In other words, you can be the answer to their prayer. Now remember, it's easier to give money to meet a need, but many people who are needy also are in need of human contact, dignity, and respect. With that in mind, here are some ideas of how you can put loving kindness into action. Maybe you could pay to have new tires put on a car for someone in need. Take groceries to someone who perhaps has lost their job. Mowing the yard for someone who is in need or maybe is working 2 jobs just to pay their bills. And by the way, spending time with these people, getting to know them and hearing their stories. Using a special talent you have to benefit someone in need. That could be legal advice, medical care, computer repairs, financial advice, welding, plumbing, electrical work. While it's easy to think of giving tangible things to people, remember, it's also loving kindness to give of your time. This can be listening to someone or visiting the elderly in a nursing home. Another intangible idea is to use your contact list, perhaps on social media, to help someone in need find a job. If you're a small business, you might consider eliminating a late fee for one of your customers who's going through a hard time. While loving kindness can involve making people accountable for their actions, we have to remember that there are times to show grace and mercy too. Be careful that you aren't too legalistic with people, especially those within your family. And remember, always be in prayer that God will show you how you can show loving kindness to others. Now, these are only suggestions, and they're really meant to help you start thinking of ways you can demonstrate God's loving kindness to others. Do you have a creative idea on how you can do this? If so, share it in the comments below. Others may benefit from that too. And if you think showing God's loving kindness to others is as important as I do, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. To connect with us on your favorite social media platforms, head over to noblebrands.com, where you'll find links to our social media profiles. But before you do that, if you like what you've seen and heard today, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. May God bless you. I pray that you see His loving kindness in your life, and in turn, I pray you were given opportunities to show loving kindness to others in the name of Jesus. Now, go out there and reflect Him well.